It was named after Camelot because this particular health center that specialized in cancer care was supposed to deliver its patients back to the idyllic happiness they all prayed for. Each patient walked into the front doors of Camelot Cancer Care with the desperate hope that, at the very least, their cancer would be stopped in its tracks, or in their wildest dreams, they would be cured. But they never dreamed that those same hopes would be misplaced and the outcome would take them on a wild and sinister journey led by one woman who was responsible for it all. Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Kay, and here at Nutritherapy, I cover all things related to health and wellness, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In today's video, today's true crime story is going to be about Maureen Long. So let's meet Maureen Long. And to say the least, Maureen's history is filled with aliases and questionable activity. So Maureen's personal history is spotted with notable highlights, including serving time in prison for illegal distribution of a controlled substance. She's also sued people and in turn has been sued many times. One of the more interesting and infamous parts of Maureen's past had to do with the claim that she, quote unquote, helped discover a new country in the Caribbean. And yes, you heard that correctly. The name of this fictional country was called the Principality of New Utopia and was co-founded alongside Maureen's deceased husband, Lazarus Long. Together, Maureen and Lazarus created a website and an entire business entity around the creation of New Utopia, with Maureen listed as the co-founder with the title of Princess Maureen Howard Long. But wait, there's more. The new country's website had photos of the new supposed U.S. embassy when in actuality it was photos of the couple's home not located in the Caribbean but in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This new U.S. embassy in New Utopia was beautifully showcased in pictures to fully illustrate to potential investors the utopian aspect of the new country by way of beautiful photos and a pond out back. Shockingly, Maureen and Lazarus actually succeeded in raising money. They raised over $24,000 in funds to build their new country. As it turned out, soon after the discovery of this new country, the Securities and Exchange Commission began investigating Maureen and Lazarus. As you would have imagined, this raised a lot of eyebrows. The Securities and Exchange Commission, also known as the SEC, had received a number of complaints along with proof that they had tricked investors in the late 1990s with their fraudulent fundraising to build New Utopia. As a result of the SEC investigation, a federal judge issued a permanent injunction against the couple in 2000. Now, if you were thinking that this was the best of Maureen's creativity in regards to creating epic scams, you would be completely wrong, because the most notable highlight of Maureen's infamous scams was the Camelot Cancer Care Center. So now we're going to shift gears and talk about the Camelot Cancer Care, which was founded in 2007 solely by Maureen. It was created to treat cancer patients with a controversial drug that to this day has not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. This drug is known by its brand name Laetrile, a man-made chemical derivative of the natural substance amygdala. According to the National Cancer Institute, amygdala is a plant substance found in fruit pits such as apricots, raw nuts, lima beans, clover, and sorghum. Because Laetrile turns into cyanide once consumed, its list of side effects were considerable, with the biggest one being death. So Laetrile is not a new drug. It's been around since the 1800s, and it had been used to treat cancer, but there had not been enough evidence to say that it actually worked, which is why it had not been approved for use in the United States. One source that I found stated that the drug had not been available in the U.S. since the 1980s. Despite the list of dangerous and deadly side effects, Maureen still based her cancer care business model around the administration of this controversial drug that she had called her secret sauce. At the time of Camelot Cancer Care's founding, Maureen operated her business out of a commercial property located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Later on down the road, Maureen began to frequently move her business to her own residence and motels, in which patients were sent home to administer the cancer treatments themselves. And I should also note, shame on me for not mentioning this earlier, but that Maureen was not a medical professional whatsoever, nor did she have a staff of reputable medical personnel on board either. Now, here is the kicker. Rather than in hiring people that actually had a medical background, Maureen chose to employ members of her family with her now deceased husband to correspond with patients via email. And as if you would have guessed, it was only natural that Maureen's lies would eventually catch up with her, and it did in a very epic way. As the story goes, the FDA had been looking into the Camelot Cancer Care Center back in November of 2011. Then, in January of 2012, a federal agent went undercover to Camelot Cancer Care, posing as the husband of a woman who had breast cancer. Now, Maureen unknowingly met with this undercover agent and told him that they had used Latrell and said that it absorbs into the cancer cells and releases cyanide, killing the cancer. Maureen also told the undercover agent that she had been using an unapproved drug that was and still is banned from use in the U.S. and further made claims that it is effective in killing cancer. Then, to add insult to injury, Maureen even expressed her paranoia of being caught by telling the undercover agent that she had hoped that he was not wearing a wire, as she could be arrested for the services that she was providing at Camelot. Before concluding the meeting with Maureen, the agent had asked to schedule an appointment and was told it would cost $13,000. And as you would imagine, Maureen's conversation with the undercover agent was the beginning of her troubles with the law. Then, in spring of 2013, the Camelot Cancer Care Center was raided and shut down by both the FBI and FDA. Oddly enough, no charges were ever filed against Maureen. And so guess what? She got right back into business, but this time she was operating the business out of her home and hotels. Now, fast forward to 2014, a Florida woman who had cancer had been told by her doctors that she would only have 5 months to live. Desperately seeking treatment, she went to Tulsa and paid Maureen more than $1,800 for treatment, in which a few days later she died. Now, as you would imagine, this definitely put Maureen back on the hot seat, in which she was formally indicted in the state of Kansas for 13 counts of wire fraud. Why Kansas? Because she had duped cancer victims, including 11 Kansas residents, into purchasing her treatment she claimed could cure cancer. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, Kansas residents paid Maureen more than $128,000 for treatment services. According to the indictment, it was stated that not only did Maureen routinely misrepresent and mislead clients with a false impression that her treatments had been tested in clinical trials, but she also claimed that Camelot had a 60% success rate, resulting in either remission of the cancer or stopping a tumor's growth. As the investigation shifted into high gear, Maureen's name and business were plastered all over the media for a second time. U.S. Marshals seized Maureen's home and personal property in Oklahoma, and yet she was nowhere to be found. So where was Maureen? Well, Maureen wasted no time in trying to claim her innocence, as she ended up fleeing to Mexico. And Maureen didn't waste any time in setting up her cancer care scam in Mexico. And if you can believe it, to this very day, her website features an intro video stating that her legal counsel gave her permission to make the video to explain the accusations against her. Also, the website goes on to explain away the joint investigations conducted by the FBI, the FDA, and multiple state, county, and city law enforcement agencies by stating this: the indictment was dismissed 3+ years ago, but could potentially be revived under the current political climate. We cannot respond to false allegations, some ludicrous and easily explainable, without disclosing defense. Our silence to date should not be misinterpreted. We ask that you reserve judgment until the true facts are presented in federal court, which may or may not happen. It's important to note that Camelot's patient records, both paper and electronic, were confiscated, including the evidence of success, proof that our formula was resolving many cancer cases into remission, with no copies provided to allow us to build a defense against bogus fraud charges. Maureen goes on to say in a very skillful deflection of all blame, quote, "We are often asked what became of the cancer patients who were in treatment at the time Camelot was raided and closed. Feds refused to refund them their treatment fees that were confiscated from Camelot's accounts, which would have allowed them to seek treatment elsewhere. Feds ordered them to return home empty-handed. Of those who were intimidated into leaving, there were no survivors," end quote. Maureen also went on to say, quote, "Of the few who stayed determined to continue with treatment clandestinely, appointments were arranged through burner phones and supplies were delivered using dead drops. Treatment was provided in the restrooms of restaurants and church parlors after hours and other more unlikely places despite Gestapo-like surveillance," end quote. Finally, Maureen ends her lengthy written defense by saying, quote, "Many thanks to past and present patients who have supported us through this witch hunt," end quote. And of course, Maureen made sure to make it perfectly clear that although she is a fugitive avoiding criminal prosecution in the U.S., her business is still ready to help you through, quote, "Camelot's expanded treatment protocols now available at selected Mexican clinics within our network at an affordable cost," end quote. So there you have it, guys. This is the story of Maureen Long. This was definitely a wild one, in my opinion, because I think in most cases with a lot of these true crime stories, either the person is behind bars or they are no longer with us. But the fact that Maureen is still alive and well operating in Mexico, I find that to be very terrifying. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.